Take a sealable plastic container and fill the bottom ½ an inch with clay unscented cat litter. Add salt to the top. Pour more cat litter onto the top. Mix the salt and cat litter together and make sure it sits even and flat. Cut the stems on all of your flowers. You can leave a bit of stem, but keep in mind the size of your resin mold. Some flowers you might not have to cut any more of the stem on, sort of like this cluster here. Place the flowers into the litter and salt. Bury the flowers slightly, especially if there's still a little bit of stem. The bottom litter will help to hold the flowers in place and make it less likely that they will break when they are dried and taken out. Add salt to the top and cover all of the flowers slightly. You could fully cover the flowers, but it's not fully necessary. Put the lid on and let it sit for about 5 days. After your flowers are dry, or at least partially dry, remove them from the container. You will need to carefully brush the salt off of your flowers. Use a paintbrush and do so and go very slowly. Mix up some resin. The resin I am using is a 2-to-1 ratio. When you are working with resin, always wear gloves, along with also do it in a well-ventilated area. Mix and get out air bubbles by tapping the container. Make sure your silicone mold is clean and also dry before you pour anything in. Slowly pour your resin into the mold. You may notice bubbles in your resin. If there are bubbles, use a heat gun to get rid of them. Place your flowers slowly into the poured resin. Start off with your center piece and branch out from there. Take your time placing flowers down, and also take advantage of the work time of your resin. The work time on this resin is just about an hour, so try to find a type of resin that you can work with for longer periods of time, but keep in mind the longer period of time that you can work with it, the longer it's going to take to cure. After all of your flowers are placed, use the heat gun one more time to get any bubbles out. If you have any resin left over like I do, make sure to use it. I am making a smaller keepsake that can be used as a coaster or just as a decoration. After your resin is set slightly, but it's still tacky, pour your next layer of resin slowly on top of this. You will need to mix up a small amount more of resin to do so. Use your heat gun to get out any bubbles. You want a nice clear surface cover of resin for this. Let your resin fully set. It took about 5 days in total for this to set. After your resin is fully set, remove it from the mold. It might take a bit of force to get it out, but it should come out with little to no resistance. This piece turned out very shiny and clear because of the silicone mold that I used. This other one was textured, so keep in mind what effect you want for your keepsake and buy the appropriate mold type. You can use these keepsakes to put more flower vases onto and use it as a centerpiece. You can also find a nice place in your home to display them with other keepsakes and mementos.
So for our first print, we're going to use watercolor paper. You'll notice watercolor paper is just a lot thicker than regular paper. It's also made, to absorb watercolors, so it's perfect for this project because of that. Now, I hope you can do this project without having to buy too many things. You can also just pick the flowers from your garden. So I'm going to start with my watercolor paper down first. You notice I've already prepared the surface with a towel, and I'm actually just using a wooden cutting board. If you're doing this at home, make sure you're not hammering on your countertops or something like that. Just put down everything you can to kind of soften the blows. Now, the flowers you want to put down on top of the paper and just sort of arrange them in any kind of design. Now, I mentioned these are vinca, but if you can think of some other flowers that might be good for this project, drop me a comment. Let me know what suggestions you have. I literally just walked around the front yard and grabbed what I could find, but it'd actually be kind of fun to maybe you're home with your kids, go on like a nature walk and see what flowers, what leaves. I didn't have a lot of luck trying to do leaf prints, but maybe you'll have a little better luck than I do down here in Texas. So I've just kind of arranged these around the surface, and I'm gonna set it up so that the paper towels, so that's the other thing you'll need. Again, you should have these probably already in your kitchen. You just need something to kind of help hold them in place, because when you're hammering, you don't want them to move at all. The whole thing is think of them kind of like a stamp. We're just kind of stamping them onto the surface here. Put the paper towel right over top, and because we don't want it to move, I'm also going to just tape this in place. So I'm just, no special tape, literally just the Scotch tape that I have in the home office. And that means you should be able to do most of this project aside from the paper. I bet you have all of these things on hand and you can try this project out. So the tape is just gonna hold it in place, like I said, so that when we hammer, nothing moves. And it also, what it's doing is it's releasing the moisture from these flowers. So this kind of helps that when you're hammering, it doesn't get the tip of the hammer wet and kind of transfer. You'll see what I mean when we get to pounding here. So, all right, I've got that secure. And I'm just using a regular old hammer from the garage. And what you're gonna do is start pounding gently. We're not like really hammering, although I know COVID, you might have a little bit of rage going, but don't let it out too much, because you don't want to do it too hard. So we'll just start gently tapping, and you'll notice the design start popping through. Okay, so we're just going to gently peel that tape up, and we'll reveal. We've got some pretty smashed flowers under here. So just do this gently, because as I was talking about earlier, the transfer, you want to try to make sure they don't shift, because if they do, it'll just kind of cause streaks on your surface. So I'm going to gently peel this up, and you'll see pretty squished. So what I learned trying this out for you guys was that if you scrape it, you're going to just smear it everywhere. So what I did is I figured out if I just use my fingernails, I can just gently peel that away to kind of reveal the surface, the print that we've made. So this is using the watercolor paint. The next I'm going to show you uses fabric, and I did find that the fabric works a lot better. The only problem is the fabric can't be washed, so you're really going to have to use it for basically the same way you would use the paper, for decorative prints for the wall, or something like that. I think it would be really cool to do like a bag or a tea towel, but again, not being able to wash it sort of makes it, I don't know, you can't really use it for what you think you would. So I was really wanting to do this project with pansies. Those come in some bright like yellow and purples that I thought would look really cool. And unfortunately, they're not in stock in any of the stores where I live. So I'll have to wait for the fall to try that. All right, well, I'm gonna finish this up at a later date, but I just wanted to show you, those are the prints there. This one's probably my favorite. I love the colors that it left.
Okay guys, so we finished both our prints. We have the one on the watercolor paper and the one on the fabric. So you'll see I put the one here in the frame that we did on the watercolor paper, and I've got the one here that we put on the fabric. So you can see how those flowers turned out. I did go ahead and outline with a permanent marker, and you can see that really made them pop. So this project can be easily recreated with whatever flowers you have in your yard, or you can pick up on a nature walk, or even maybe from a wedding bouquet or something like that. And thank you for watching Home Talk. See you in my next video.